Welcome to another episode of Don't Call It Small. I'm your host, Natasha Foreman. If you don't know about me and you have no clue what this podcast is all about, let me share a bit. I'm the CEO of Foreman Associates, LLC, and Don't Call It Small is where we talk all things business, share tips and news that you can use, and highlight the people and ideas behind the products and services that we buy. To learn more about me and my company, please visit ForemanLLC.com. Woo! Whoop, whoop! It's Wednesday, October 2nd, 2019. Gosh, can you believe it? I can't believe it. I'm excited. It is literally 25 days away from my birthday and 29 days away from one of my favorite holidays. And I get all giddy. Now, before I jump into today's topic, I want to do some promo for my youngest godson, whose birthday is also this month. He has a book launch and event that I'm calling on you to support. His name is Kyler Smith, and he is a 9-year-old author, yes, of the book entitled I Define Me, which is a heartwarming book that empowers children with learning differences and their parents by providing a candid peek into Kyler's life. This book gives you the unique opportunity to walk in his shoes and see how he navigates life after being diagnosed with dyslexia, dysgraphia, and dyspraxia. Kyler's mom, Erica, shared on Instagram yesterday some information about dyslexia, because if you don't know, October is National Dyslexia Awareness Month. Now, let me share a little bit about dyslexia. It's a neurological condition that affects the way the brain processes information. Studies show that 1 in 5 children have it, which is roughly about 20 kids. And it's a spectrum, right? It's not just simply seeing letters backwards. It's a spectrum of things. It's various levels and grades. Now, people are taught decoding strategies in order to read, and 2 tips that were shared to assist readers with dyslexia are to provide audiobooks as well as digital collections. And with the digital collections, you can change the fonts and other characteristics to help aid in reading. I know that some of the stereotypes and the beliefs are that people that are dyslexic usually are lazy or unable to read, which is not the case. I want you to imagine struggling with decoding the words on the books, signs, websites, and apps that you use and read each and every day. I mean, it's like those of you that read a foreign language, such as myself, sometimes I struggle with translating that, with decoding it. And sometimes it's going to take longer than it would someone who speaks that language natively and reads it natively. But even with that as an example, just because I speak and read English fluently, it's the language that I was born to learn, does not mean that there's certain words that I can decode quickly while others can. Hence why certain words people are like, oh, it's hard for me to break that down. They can't read it. And other people can zoom through it. Well, that's what also happens with dyslexia. It's the process in which it takes to decode something. And so the amount of time and energy that's required can sometimes, find the process of reading both physically and mentally draining for a person that has dyslexia. Now, many of you may be shocked. You see and hear these diagnoses of dyslexia, dysgraphia, and dyspraxia as obstacles, but Kyler sees them as mere challenges that he believes he can overcome through hard work, tenacity, and the right support system. And just like many people with dyslexia, Kyler's a big picture thinker, creative, and very intelligent. His motto is, I define me. And so it's only fitting that his autobiography would be titled with that motto. You can purchase his book on Amazon for $12.99. And here's the thing. Amazon offers free shipping on orders over $25. So that's one more reason why you should buy 2 or more of his books. Keep one, gift one, donate one to the public library near you. I'm just saying. Now, let me give you the deets on his book launch event. It's this Saturday, October 5th from 4:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. at the Lollipop Sweet Shop in Atlanta, Georgia off of Cumberland Parkway. He's going to be sharing 3 readings at 5:30 p.m. and 6 p.m. Come out and support Kyler and learn how he defines himself. I can say that looking at how Kyler lives his life is a perfect segue to today's topic. He can serve as a role model for many of us. So switching gears, let's look at business and how many of us could learn a thing or two from this 9-year-old. Over the past several episodes, we've discussed the ins and outs of business, the nuances, failures, successes, hurdles, and barriers. We even answered questions from our listeners and from those of you who follow us on social media. And today we're going to look closer at business, what works and what leads to business failure and successes. And then next week, we're going to look at certain U.S. states and cities that have been booming versus those where the struggle is real. There's a quote that I want to share with you. It's from Brian Tracy that says, "Failure is a prerequisite for great success. If you want to succeed faster, double your rate of failure." I always used to be afraid to fail because I always equated it to mean that I was a failure. Failure isn't the process of failing. Failure is when you just give up, quit, bury your mind, your head, right? And you refuse to try anything else ever again. Well, that's not me. So that means my view of failing, on being wrong, on failing and having to get back up, or falling and having to get back up, has to be changed. And I'm going to give you an example. I'm a great cook. I'm a foodie. Here's something I had to stop and consider. If I'm willing to create a meal from scratch, or even from a recipe, and risk burning it or it just tasting like blah, then I should have that same mindset with just about anything in life. Just try again. The more you try, the better you get. The more feedback and assistance you get, the faster you can make improvements. And even if you don't win, the journey along the way was awesomeness. So having a successful business requires quite a few things aligning right and consistently for you, such as the location of your storefront, office, etc. So we're going to quickly examine some other factors that are outlined on the website, cbinsights.com. I took all of the reasons and then I elaborated, expanded, and shared some of my own examples to help really give you greater insight. And these reasons are also the biggest reasons why companies fail. Now, let's not confuse the daily, weekly, hourly, yearly failures that we experience. I'm not talking about those. I'm referring to the absolute death, the no CPR, the no resuscitation type of business death. So, got it? Great. Here's 20 reasons. If you took my online training in August and September, you know that the ultimate reason for failing and failure comes from our mental attitude and our reasoning, such as fear, pride, ego. And those will lead to the 20 plus that I'm about to share right now. Number 1, no market need. Simply put, your idea doesn't fulfill a need for enough people. The problem that you solve or the opportunity that you present must be big enough, bold enough, desired greatly, and be scalable to reach the masses in the shortest amount of time. You may solve a problem for a handful or more people, but that handful of people won't keep you in business long term. It may be a cute or snazzy idea to you and some people that you know, but will hundreds, thousands, or millions of people buy it? That's the big question. Number 2, companies that run out of cash. You know the saying that time is money and money is time. Well, that's because they're both finite. And when you run out of either or both, you're soon floating down that creek that we all know too well. If you can't raise enough money through sales or investments, then it's a wrap. If you can't reimagine your business in a way that can generate the money needed to operate daily with consistency, then your company is no more. Reason number 3, you don't have a team or the right team. In one of my courses that I teach through my company, Foreman Associates, we discuss the creation and management of your dream team and what it entails. Your founding team members need to be solidly fit in the correct spaces of the puzzle you're creating. If you're great at ideation but you suck at implementation, then you don't need to assume roles and responsibilities that require the latter from you. This happens a lot with the assignment of job titles. People get hung up on being called the CEO, COO, president, whatever. But then they don't know Jack or Jill about what is required of them in their roles. You have people serving as the CFO and they don't even have bookkeeping experience, let alone finance experience. Ladies and gentlemen, if you aren't a numbers and dollars person, just steer clear from the CFO role. Just come on. And let me be clear. You can always be the founder of your organization and then find someone to serve as the CEO, COO, or president. If you aren't a visionary, you aren't strategic, you aren't a risk taker, then these CEO shoes will most likely be too big and cumbersome for you. And every visionary needs someone to balance them out, right? And why? Well, that's because visionaries who lack a partner, co-founder, or some other support is like a balloon or a leaf just loose in the wind. Visionaries are always seeing big and trying to achieve bigness, even when bigness is far from their grasp. You always need a pragmatist, a realist, or whatever words you want to use to describe the person who will make things crystal clear to the visionary. You aren't telling them no, can't, or impossible because those are offensive words, especially to a visionary. However, you are telling them when they can realistically see their vision realized and possibly tangible. You can never put a leash on a visionary. I mean, never. However, you can do your part to support their bigness in a way that doesn't sink the ship. There are a lot of businesses that failed because the founder CEO didn't have someone balancing and checking them. And when we look at the COO, the Chief Operating Officer, he or she is responsible for operations, and that means the day-to-day of getting stuff done rests on their shoulders. They're responsible for all the pieces of the puzzle working together seamlessly to get those products and services delivered as promised to align with the strategies and the overarching mission that explains the why of the business. And let me say this now before I forget. Don't start hiring contractors and employees and you don't have someone handling your HR needs. I mean, I don't care if you have to outsource to a third-party provider. Whatever you do, don't just try to throw gum on the wall and hope it sticks. That's one of my biggest pet peeves with organizations. Sucky HR. And it's always because the CEO and COO don't see HR as a top priority, although you need humans for your dang business to run. HR isn't just a form sending, collecting, a tabulating function. HR should be the heartbeat of your organization. They should be the first line of outreach for all things that impact your workforce. Whomever, I don't care what their title is, runs your HR should be working side by side with your CEO, COO, and CFO. Now, one more person I want to mention, the CTO, your Chief Technology Officer, or whatever title you want to give this person and the team they're over. It's 2019 and technology should be a major part of your company. If you're listening to me, then you're using technology, and you should consider all of the ways that you use or misuse technology in the workplace and through your interactions with customers and vendors. Are you using outdated technology? How do you know? Unless you're a techie engineer or in that sphere, you probably have to refer to professionals who have the experience to know what works best for your business or what you should have built or programmed for your business. Don't sleep on your tech, or you may find yourself behind your competition. Now, speaking of competition, reason number 4, you get beat down by your competition. And I find it interesting to discover how many businesses that don't pay attention to what their competition is doing or not doing. And maybe they paid attention when they first started out, maybe when they were creating their business plan, if they pause long enough to do that. Oftentimes, people pay attention to competition during 2 periods. In the beginning, when you're saying to yourself, oh, we can do that and better than them. And then in the end, when you're saying, what the hell happened? We didn't even see them over there. Now, I'm not telling you to obsess over your competition. Don't do that. That's a recipe for disaster and ulcers. Let me instead give you some visuals. I ran track from elementary through college. I was a sprinter. And during a race, when you're running, it's dangerous to look around to see where your competition is. You learn to use your peripheral vision, check for shadows on the ground in front and beside you. You feel for their presence. You listen for their feet and their breathing. You have to know all of these different things. And you have to also know their strengths and weaknesses. And where on the track to be most strategic, to either pull away from a competitor or chase one down and surpass them. When you're running from behind, your best positioning is to draft off of the runner in front of you, right? Then you find the right time to kick into your next gear so you can then pull up next to them and swiftly run past them. Since they haven't been conserving energy, you have, drafting off of them, you won't struggle as much as they will. And this is similar strategy that we use in cycling. You use the environment and conditions against your competition. Interesting enough, that struggling competitor will actually wear themselves out even faster because their ego and pride are telling them they can go faster, and their body is saying, oh, hell no, I can't. So then reality sets in, and then they start running or cycling like they're in quicksand. Trust me, it's exactly how it feels. Your arms and legs are so heavy that it feels like you're carrying a person on each limb. Now, runners always talk about the bear that jumps on our backs, and it's really more like a slow yet heavy crawl. And that full weight gets on you like those last 200 to 400 meters of your race. And I want you guys to think about the people that started off strong in the beginning of the race, and then they came in last or near last towards the end. The pain is real, and that's why you see some people collapsing before or soon, or at the line, or soon after crossing the finish line. Some people are hobbling and limping across the line. That bear has its claws in you when you have to crawl to that finish line. Think about marathon runners. When you see them crawling and on their knees, yep, that's the bear on their backs. Well, guess what? This happens in business all the time. It happens when you underestimate your competition. You don't study their moves and strategies. You don't study how they overcome obstacles and failures. When you don't identify their strengths and opportunities at their disposal. Athletes are supposed to always study our competition. Your competition's habits, quirks, strengths, and weaknesses. I don't care what sport you participate in. You can race cars. You are learning other drivers' styles, tics, and habits. You learn how and when they time their downshift, whether they push the limits on the apex or come in hard in braking zones. You also know if someone drives more conservative on certain parts of the track or course. In football, that's U.S. football, by the way, if you're on defense, you begin to learn how certain offensive players position their hands or feet to indicate a run or pass. On offense, you're picking up cues to see whether or not the defense has figured out your plays. Athletes watch games, races over and over and learn not only how to be better, but how to compete better against their opponent. Well, this is exactly what we're supposed to be doing in business. Now, if you tell me, Natasha, my business doesn't have any competition, then my response is that either one, you may be positioning yourself out of business because usually lack of competition means no market need, and no market need means a dead business. Or two, you may have launched an idea that is new or innovative in your area and you just don't see other companies doing what you do. However, are you truly the only company doing what you do? And if you are, how long do you think that's going to last? Especially if your business products or services are so awesome that demand will outweigh supply. Why wouldn't you expect a new entrant to the market to come grab slices of the pie that you've been enjoying? Always plan for the attack so you're not blindsided when it happens. Trust me, you don't want that bear on your back. It's hungry and it's heavy and it's used to dragging you down to your face, then stomping on you. Know your competition. Yes, you should run your race and focus on your race, but don't be stupid and ignore your competition. You will only play yourself. Reason number 5 for failing, pricing and cost issues. It's always difficult to set and adjust your price, right? I get it. I struggle with it too. You don't know if it's too high, too low until you test it out. You have to price your products and services high enough to cover your operating and other costs, but also low enough to get new and repeat customers. And sometimes looking at your competition helps, and sometimes it bites you in the butt because you're not considering what they may have more or less money in reserves than you do. Right? Their money may be longer than yours, as the saying goes. Your overhead expenses may be higher or lower than theirs. You may have to repay investors more than they do. Heck, they may not even have investors to repay. You have to take all this in consideration when you attempt to align your pricing to your competition. And if no one is buying your product or service, you need to determine why. Is it because your prices are too high, too low, you're offering something they don't want, or is it something else? Reason 6, your products aren't user-friendly. So the idea or design sounds good to you, works great to you, but you never consulted your potential and current customers. You never got feedback on the look, feel, use of the product. Do you know what that tells the public? You don't care what they think, feel, or want, or need. You just want to toss something in their lap and make them pay for it. And when you know what happens, you know what they're going to say? They're going to say, nope. If it's too difficult or too time consuming, it's going to be a major turnoff for most people. Now, that leads to reason number 7, products without business models. Oh yes, this one is always a biggie. We see this a lot with tech products. They have the product and then they struggle with getting it to market and getting the market to gobble up the product. And that's because you put the cart before the horse. I mean, I get it. When you have a vision, you want to run with it. However, if your goal is to sell this idea to hundreds and possibly millions of people, then you better simultaneously create a list of all the business things you need to accomplish before taking this product public. Even if you're only thinking about like doing this to protect your idea from theft. Build the business while you're fine-tuning the product so that you can launch the foundation of support that you need to withstand the pressures of the marketplace. If you don't know how to do this, reach out to professionals who do, like me and my team at Foreman Associates. Like, you can contact us. Send us an email at info@ForemanLLC.com. Now, that leads to reason number 8, poor marketing. If you recall, last week I dedicated 2 airings of this podcast to marketing. We did episode 14 and then part 2. Which should have been technically episode 15. But anyway, so let's say your target market is, you know who they are. The people that you believe want what you have to offer. But how will you make contact with them so that they know about you, your business, and the products and services that you offer? Marketing is like driving on a highway or freeway. You roll down your window and you start screaming out to passing vehicles. I make novelty cell phone cases for $20 and less, and you can check them out online at WeGotThoseCoolCasesForYou.com. I mean, how many people will actually hear and understand you? If someone does, by chance, how many of them will actually visit your website and make a purchase? Marketers understand that there's always clutter and noise to compete with. There's always something or someone vying for your prospective customer's attention. Using the same freeway example, I want you to think about how many billboards you actually drive by on an average day. Like, let's be really honest. You absolutely have no clue. Maybe if you're a passenger, maybe you can look on both sides of the freeway, but most likely you don't. Then let's factor in if you have the radio on, you're being flooded with commercials and songs and this, that, and that. Your cell phone's got all these notifications. You got ads on it. There's websites all over the place. You are just in a sea of clutter, and marketers have to compete for your attention. So imagine if you haven't paid to have a professional marketing person or team to lead the charge on your company's behalf. If you're trying to do it yourself, how will you position your business offerings to the public so that they see you? How will you stand out from the crowd? How will your freeway billboard catch their attention? How will your radio ad make them quickly write down your info, call your number, or visit your site? How will your social media ad leave an impression that motivates viewers to quickly act upon your promotion? If you're a product designer who just wants to build, you don't want to spend the time marketing and selling it, then you better find someone who can market and sell it for you. There's a lot of great ideas that are sitting on shelves and in warehouses collecting dust simply because they weren't properly marketed. Now, reason number 9, ignore your customers. This is a great way to fail in business. It's important to get your ego and pride out of the business. Get it out of your business if you want to see it grow and succeed. You want people to buy something from you, then you better listen to them, and when they tell you what they like, dislike, want, don't want, need, or don't need. If they say your prices are too high, then guess what? They're too high. If they say your quality isn't up to par, then it isn't. Listen to them. You should be asking for feedback all the time. And you know something that always irks me? Customer surveys that are only used to check a box, but not applied to make improvements. If you're going to take the time to give out a survey, then take the time to read them, follow up on them, and make whatever changes are necessary to improve your product, services, workplace, space, and what do customers? Customer experience. When customers feel ignored, they ignore you. If your customers keep complaining and saying, your customer support sucks, then when do you think will be the right time to intervene, get your team members properly trained, and improve the customer experience? Do you think you should do it before or after your customers abandon you? I'll let you figure that out. Choose wisely, friends. Choose wisely. Now, reason number 10, product launched at the wrong time. You had to move with your customers, not too fast, not too slow. There are countless examples of companies launching products before customers were ready, or launching a product when customers were expecting something newer and better to be released. And that's why you see some companies building anticipation buzz and an awareness of what the product can be expected to deliver. One great way to ensure that your launch time is during a good period is to gain feedback in advance from the market. If you have access to trade shows or certain platforms where you can speak to the product, or speak about the product or your service to the public, so that you can get a comparison of where they currently are versus where you are. You can kind of see if you're right on time or too far or too behind, too far ahead or too far behind. And so if they tell you, I kind of needed this 2 years ago, then that's a red flag. If they tell you, well, it's really cool, but you're bringing version 2.0 and I need version 7.0, that's also red flag, unless you get the feedback before you invest in mass production and marketing of your product. If you test before you invest, you can get all the details from customers with enough time to say, whoa, we need to slow down, or good googly moogly, we need to speed things up, get our product up to version 7.0, right? This is also true when we think of timing of the release of something that's seasonal. So, for example, releasing bathing suits in December in Minnesota may not be the best bet. It could be great to be able to have them ready for, putting in stores, or just doing some kind of advertising to get the mind going. You have to time it. Timing's everything. It's truly a hit or miss, but don't be dismayed. Just keep testing, trying, communicating with your customers and vendors, and seeing what works best and when. Reason number 11, you lose your focus. This happens a lot, especially with people who don't have a strong vision and a true understanding of their why. It also happens when you don't have a strong foundation and support system to help keep things stable when life clobbers you and or your business. Losing focus can be the process of getting distracted by life's clutter or life's clobbering. At the same time, losing focus can be you creating clutter by forgetting your why, and you begin offering a crap load of products and services that you don't really align with your why and your mission. Your company, for instance, is a dry cleaners, and somehow you decide to also have a smoothie stand and cell phone repair station inside. What? How? I mean, why? Like, really, why? Why would I want to go inside my dry cleaners and leave with a smoothie and get my cell phone repaired? I don't know. Do your dry cleaning customers actually spend that much time in your store to wait for a smoothie to be made or the cell phone to be repaired? I'm usually out of my cleaners in like less than 10 minutes. So could I get a smoothie? Maybe. But maybe that'll take an extra 5 minutes on average. And when should I be ordering that smoothie? Before or after I pick up or drop off my clothes? And then how do you coordinate the spacing in the work areas and the lines that customers will form? It's just complicated. Now, when I look at my company, Foreman Associates, I had to sit back and look at what we were offering our clients and what they wanted versus what we wanted. And there's certain services that I'm willing to provide current clients that I'm not trying to market to prospective clients. There's also certain services that I'm not passionate about. So guess what? I would rather outsource that work to another firm or refer a prospective client elsewhere. I don't want to lose focus. I don't want to chase money. I always tell people, when you chase the money, it makes well, let me tailor this to this audience. When you chase the money, it will pimp you. There we go. That's a clean version of my saying. So stay focused, get focused. If you don't know how, get help. Reason number 12, disharmony amongst your team or investors. This kind of goes back to what I said earlier about not having the right team. If there's friction within your team, it's not a good thing. And as I've said in previous episodes of Don't Call It Small, adults are oversized children. We bicker, have temper tantrums, sabotage, and are petty. You spend as much, if not more, time with your work family as you do your home family. So battling egos can destroy your business. If you have a toxic work environment, a bullying management style, and leaders vying for power, you have unknowingly started pulling the threads on your company's fabric. And what happens when you keep pulling the threads? Eventually, you will unravel it into nothingness. And that's what happens to businesses that don't squash and heal their disharmony. And yes, that includes disharmony between owners and investors. Disharmony is disharmony. Dis-ease is dis-ease. Fix it or die from it. Reason number 13, making a business pivot for no real reason. Making big and bold business moves just because can be the first step to digging your corporate grave. Your move should be planned, organized, properly led, and measured through control mechanisms. Do you remember the 4 functions of management that I shared with you in episode 12? If you said planning, organizing, leading, controlling, then you are correct. You should make sure that you're utilizing these when making pivots and major changes. It leads me to reason number 14, lack passion. I keep saying that when you don't know your why, your passion will never be present and will always be lacking. Just because you know how to do something or because you can make money from it doesn't mean you should do it. If you don't feel yourself drooling thinking about it, steer clear of it. What you're passionate about, you talk about all of the time. You think about it, dream about it, plan with it, for it, and around it. Heck, it probably can bring you to tears when you think of the impact it's had on you and it can have on others. You should always be reimagining yourself, your business, your products and services, and your relationship with your customers and workers. Life is about relationships. Business is about relationships. If your relationship with your business fizzles, it's because you stopped dating it or because your relationship was never authentic to begin with. When people ask you, would you do what you do for free? It really is a good gauge and predictor if you have the lasting power to endure for the long haul. Debbie Fields, the woman behind Mrs. Fields Cookies, my favorite cookies, by the way, is quoted as saying, "The important thing is not being afraid to take a chance. Remember, the greatest failure is to not try. Once you find something you love to do, be the best at doing it." The key here, when I take all this in, is doing something that you love to do and love to do consistently. It's like dating and marriage. You may be all lovey-dovey in the beginning, but if you don't invest and reinvest in it, keep that flame sparked, it will fizzle. And then what do people say? I'm just not feeling it. I love you, but I'm not in love with you. Basically, the passion is drained from the relationship. I can admit that more than twice, I found myself looking at my company, at my business, and admitting that I had lost passion for some of the things I was doing. Heck, I even questioned if I had lost passion for my business. There was something off, something missing, something wrong. And when I pulled back the layers and focused in, it was clear that my company lost its focus. It wasn't paying attention to our competition. It stopped dating our customers. I mean that figuratively, not literally. Our relationship with our customers was no longer strong. Like, we had past clients and we just didn't have that bond. It wasn't there anymore. And we'd done the work and we never kept that relationship going. And we weren't actively pursuing prospective clients. This especially became true when I was going through the emotional roller coaster in the aftermath of my divorce. I was traumatized and depressed. And my passion for my business reflected what was going on in my personal life. You can't run your business with your head buried under the covers for days. I mean, you can, but you're going to most likely run your business into the corporate graveyard. It took me over 1 year to conduct a deep analysis of what was going wrong, and how I was causing a lot of the problems. It then took another 5 months to get the courage to take the steps needed to right-side our focus, operations, and way of being. It was about finding and reconnecting with our why. The rollout of this podcast has been a huge boost. It's helped to trigger and re-engage our social media and blogging efforts. We're now back in the swing of things, scheduling and creating our monthly, quarterly, and annual newsletters. The creation of our online trainings and courses are major sparks, and has helped us look at various ways we can fulfill our why without losing focus, without creating clutter and chaos, without trying to sell smoothies and cell phone repair services with our dry cleaning services. We're staying in our lane. We're where we're strongest and where we can get help in the areas where we're weak without sacrificing opportunities and risking threats. We're no longer chasing clients, money, or things. We're no longer reacting to our environment. We're planning for the what ifs. And the passion is reignited and blazing hot. It can be difficult when you own the company because everything runs hot and cold based on you and when you run hot and cold. But as the leader of the organization, you need to rewire the company to not be impacted based on your highs and lows. If you get sick, operations shouldn't cease. And staying with that same line, let me also say, what is your plan for your business if you retire willingly or unwillingly, are physically or mentally incapacitated, or you take your last breath and never return to work another day? Who takes over? How will things operate? How will the passion remain and build without you present to stir and churn the pot? If you haven't considered this, then you need to right now. Now, reason number 15, location, location, location. If you remember at the beginning of this episode, I mentioned how the location of your business can have a huge impact on your success or failure. Just because you're hot stuff in Indiana does not mean you're going to be hot stuff outside of Indiana. You have to deliver something that can work beyond the Crayola-colored borders of your state. Unless, of course, you only want to sell products and services in your state. And I do want to add something else about location. One of the hardest tasks as a business owner has been managing remote workers, especially when we're in different states. You have to find and use some kind of app or online workspace that allows frequent and consistent engagement, create regular web-based and when possible in-person meetings so that people don't feel like they're on deserted islands. And I've been able to utilize certain tools as a college professor, and I need to find ways to simulate that same kind of engagement with my workers. And I have to reflect upon this consistently so that no matter if it's 10 of us or 2 of us, if I'm struggling now to find a healthy balance of communication engagement, then how can I possibly pull this off with a much larger remote team? I also have to remind myself that I can't be isolated in my creativity mode where I'm lost in creating for days and I forget about those team members that they haven't heard from me. And, they need to. They don't ever need to feel like they're on an island alone, So, what did I say about customers? When they feel ignored, they abandon you. Well, guess what? The same is true with your workers. If you ignore them, they're going to leave. Just period. Now, if you don't think you're ignoring them, trust and believe you could probably engage with them a lot more than you already are. So stay focused on them, and your passion and their passion will mesh and grow together. This leads to reason number 16, no financing or investor interest. This ties right into running out of cash. Failure to get financing or to get investors to continue to be interested in you, in later rounds of seeding is a major reason for company fizzling. Reason 17, legal challenges. It could be anything tied to your intellectual property. It could be something dealing with HR issues like sexual harassment or whistleblower case. Maybe a manager fired someone without cause and you happen to be in a state where cause is required. Maybe, your products were contaminated and you got a lot of people sick. The list is endless. If you don't have the money to cover your legal expenses, you're going to be in a whole crap load of mess. I also want to say something else, that make sure that you have some kind of legal representation if you're launching an S Corp, C Corp, or nonprofit. Please don't treat your business like you did your lemonade stand when you're age 5. Something else I want to stress is make sure that you always hire lawyers who specialize in the industries where you work, right, in those fields. And for all the lawyers out there, please make sure you get help from lawyers who really specialize in protecting you and your firm. I have to say this because some lawyers let their ego and pride get in the way, and they can actually make matters worse than a non-lawyer with a business. Trust me, I've had lawyers as clients, and some of them think they know everything. Now, reason number 18, don't use your network. Have you heard Porter Gale's quote, "Your network is your net worth"? Let that sink in and marinate for a moment. My dad used to tell me when I was in high school and college that my relationships would get me farther than my brains. He wasn't saying that I wasn't smart enough. He just knew what I didn't. The most successful people aren't great at leveraging their relationships. The most successful people are great at leveraging their relationships. They look at their contact list, they see the ways that they can benefit their colleagues and the ways their colleagues can be resourceful for them. If you recall from previous episodes, I've said that I'm really good at connecting people. I'm great at using my relationships and my network for other people's gain and benefit. However, I don't always look to my network to assist me and my company. Even if I do things to help my network, I still don't turn around and say, "Hey, I need your help." And part of it has to do with I don't think about it, right? I can look at all the ways I can support them and their businesses, but I don't ever stop and ask them to support me and mine. And sometimes the other reason is because my pride may get in the way, especially if money is the issue or need. Like, so when I'm looking for fresh and new clients, why wouldn't I reach out to my network for referrals? It makes sense, right? Well, you'd be surprised how many of us don't do it. It's yet another reason why so many companies fail. They don't reach out to their professional and personal contacts. They don't reach out and communicate with full transparency to their investors. Instead, they just internalize and keep everything in-house. And with that, they burn everything up from inside out. I mean, it's not the safest and most effective way to send out smoke signals. I mean, here's another example. The bat signal was always on top of the building for Batman to see. The commissioner didn't put the signal inside the police precinct and turn it on, did he? Nope. So why would you think that our need for help can be contained within? We need to reach outward. So if you're curious as to how to build your network, Cameron Herold is quoted as saying, "Start building a network of fellow entrepreneurs that understand your passion and don't make you feel guilty about always chasing it." The entertainer Pharrell said, "Collaborate with people you can learn from." Now, some of you may find layers of your network forming on a site like LinkedIn. It's something about engaging with like-minded people. If you want to know how to reach out to your network and ask for help, contact them. Tell your story as much as you can and honestly ask for their help. If you need advisors, ask. If you need proofreaders, ask. If you need investors, ask. If you need referrals for clients or to build your team, ask. Just ask. Leads me to number 19, burnout. This can happen with or without passion. And yes, you can be passionate about what you do, but if you're working like a mad person, going like the Energizing Bunny, guess what you'll do? You will burn both ends of your candle. If you're not taking breaks, reimagining things, reflecting on your why, and stepping away from the driver's seat from time to time, you will burn out. You have to. You must find a balance. You can't live, eat, breathe, and sleep your business. I've experienced burnout more times than I can count. It's usually due to me doing way too much. You already know I'm a college professor at 2 institutions. I'm a business owner. I'm a blogger. I host this show now, and I'm trying to do a lot of other things in all the same 24-hour days that I have. It can take its toll on me mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. I found myself in the doctor's office, in urgent care, and in the ER. Burnout is real. It's important that you find times to disconnect. Set work hours and stick to them as much as possible. Take time out for lunch, away from your desk. Meditate, get massages, go to spas, listen to audiobooks, go sit by a body of water like a pool, lake, river, ocean, whatever, even if it's only for a couple of hours. Disconnect. Find a space and place where you can breathe, relax, release, and refresh. Create theme days for your company so that you're only working on and focusing on certain things on certain days. In my company, we have Management Mondays, Product and Service Tuesdays, Marketing Wednesdays, Client Relation Thursdays, and Team-Centered Fridays. Now, that doesn't mean that something may not pop up on a day not designated for that thing. However, we have options. 1, we can delegate that thing to its designated day and deal with it then. Or 2, if it's urgent, we can address it immediately, but being mindful of the time that we invest, as we don't want to lose focus and throw off our day dealing with something else. If that makes sense, heck, I mean, think about it. You can create theme days for your personal life. When I was growing up, Fridays were always my family's pizza and video games night. I've been slowly making that a theme in my life again. If I'm not playing a video game or playing card games, I'm trying to watch a movie, as long as it's entertaining and hopefully I have some pizza. Maybe Monday is your management day where you pay bills, call vendors, etc. Maybe Tuesday is both Taco Tuesday and it's your therapy day. I don't know. I usually use Tuesdays and Fridays as my day to clean. Something that 99% of you don't know is cleaning is therapeutic for me. I know it sounds hilarious, especially to me because I hated cleaning as a child. But now as an adult, I love grabbing that vacuum cleaner, my Swiffer duster, and disconnecting for 1 or 2 hours and focusing on cleaning my home. It feels good being in a clean and orderly space. It feels good to inhale and it smells so fresh. I remember years ago, when my housekeeper complimented me on how well I maintain my home, she said that she has some clients who nearly live for her and her team to come in and clean up behind them. Sometimes I get some awesome ideas while cleaning, so maybe using themes in home will also work for you. Now let's get back to themes in the workplace. The reason I decided to have our team operate on theme days is because it's one of the ways to help keep us focused. I'm like many entrepreneurs. I can struggle with my focus and attention. And I don't claim ADD. I just say that our minds have a lot of data, ideas, and wow, flying through rapidly. And we need structure to harness all of it. By working with theme days, it doesn't matter if you're out ill or on vacation. When you return back to work, you know what the focus is on that day. So if you go on a 2-week vacation and return on Wednesday, then you know that our team is focused on all things marketing. We're not focused on product development because we were working on that on Tuesday. That also means that deliverables are always due on their theme day unless it's an urgent matter. And this helps to reduce burnout. I also encourage wellness days off. If stress is building up, then it's time to step away from the workplace. We need to be open, creative, innovative, and excited at work. work. If we're not, then we need to step back and return refreshed in with a clean lens. As our team grows, our HR strategy is already outlined to include flexible work schedules, and that allows workers to take off days or create work schedules that coincide with their children's school schedule. And when their children are ill or have doctor's appointments, mom and dad shouldn't be scrambling for childcare. They should be able to focus on their family, and that's why remote work is so beneficial, and why it's important that I get the managing those relationships down pat so that I can easily train future managers who will assume these responsibilities in my company. If I can't get it right, if I'm not consistent, if I'm not doing it, then how can I expect it from other people? How can I hold others accountable? I must lead by example, not by title. And here's a great burnout quote that I found online. And I don't know who's to credit for it, so if you know, please email me at don'tcallitsmallbiz@gmail.com or DM me on social media. The quote says, "Burnout is not about giving too much of yourself. It's about trying to give what you do not possess." Ponder that. Now, that leads to reason number 20. The final reason that I'm sharing today is failure to pivot. Now, if you recall earlier, I mentioned a failing point when you pivot for no reason. So you just do it because. Well, failing to pivot is another blunder of epic proportions. Failing to pivot is like failing to duck when someone's about to punch you. It's failing to bob and weave. When you don't pivot, you get a rope-a-dope all against those ropes for a very long time until you hit the mat and the refs count you out or your trainer throws in the towel and saves you. Failure to pivot is like driving down the street and you see a huge 4-foot boulder in the middle of the street, but you don't change lanes. You just drive into the boulder. Well, you and I both know that collision is going to result in your car being totaled, insurance spiking like crazy. Heck, you may even get dropped from your insurance company, and you might find all of this out from your hospital bed because depending on how fast you're driving, the impact most likely led to a call to the paramedics. Sorry for the deep drudge and darkness of it, but reality's reality. When we fail to pivot in business, the results are similar to the examples that I've shared. Companies fail to pivot for a few reasons. 1, you suffer from analysis paralysis and you get blindsided by reality. 2, your ego or pride keeps you locked into an idea for far too long. 3, you ignorantly don't know that you should be pivoting. 4, you respond too slowly, and before you get the chance to pivot, you hit the big boulder. Please don't hit the big boulder. Don't do it. Please don't. Don't. So, you know what this is, folks. It's that time again. Time to wrap up and go our separate ways until next week. If you have questions or suggestions about this show, please email them to us at don'tcallitsmallbiz@gmail.com. Let me leave you with a Robert Schuller quote that may help you. Failure doesn't mean you are a failure. It means you haven't succeeded yet. With that, be sure to check us out on IG and Facebook at Foreman Associates and on Twitter at ForemanLLC. Be sure to also follow us and share us with your friends, colleagues, and family. You can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn at Natasha L. Foreman. Reach out to me, say hello, share your story. I look forward to meeting you. Don't forget that you can also text us your questions and suggestions for this podcast by texting area code 404-481-1849. That's area code 404-481-1849. Please note the standard messaging rates apply, and this is a text-only number. This number does not accept voice calls. I want to make sure that I give proper credit for our show theme song. It's called Higher Up, and it's by Shane Ivers. Thank you for tuning into the Don't Call It Small Business Podcast, for sharing these episodes with others, and for your continued support. And don't forget what I tell you on every episode. Don't call what you're doing, planning, thinking, dreaming, little or small. Go big, go bold, or go nowhere. See you at 4:30 p.m. this Saturday at Lollipop Sweet Shop for Kyler Smith's I Define Me book readings. And I will see you here next week for episode 16 of Don't Call It Small. Have a super awesome day and week.